Good morning, everybody. This is Martin John, and we are here to talk about the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching is an ancient text written in the 6th century BC, and it is Friday. I guess I can talk a little bit more about the Tao Te Ching. I mean, just step away from the idea that it's Friday. It is Friday, and so I hope that lots of people want to take advantage. I might not be on Saturday or Sunday. I probably will be. But yeah, it's always good to get a Tao for your weekend. And so the Tao Te Ching is an ancient text written in the 6th century BC. And it's filled with 81 chapters. But each of those chapters, I like to call them forms. I don't know why. I think it's like just I was writing these. And I misspelled from, and it was like from 26, and it wrote out form 26. And I was like, oh, maybe I can call these forms. Like each of them is a form. Like when I think of a form, I think of like you have the form of a body, the form of a thing. It's the form of a tree. It's the form of Tao, right? And so I like calling them forms. And that was just from a mistake. This is how we get inspired. I don't think anybody else in the world calls these forms. But I do like saying like, oh, form number 30, because like when I say form number 30, it's like when I say chapter, I think a lot of people are like, oh, you're going to read a whole chapter. But when I say form, let me read this. Let me read form 30. If we're all on the same page, then we know what we're talking about. And when someone enters, if I use the word chapter, they might think it's something really long. So I like to say like there's 81 forms, and each one of them consists of usually less than 250 words. I don't know what the shortest verses. I know we read a really short one yesterday. I don't know if I have my notes open from yesterday. Number 6. Number 6 was the Great Feminine. And that's 34 words, right? 34 words. Yesterday when we read with Melissa number 6, it only has 34 words. And yet in it, we talked for Melissa and I talked for 15 minutes, and then I continued to talk about it a little bit, and so what's in there, right? What's in these forms? What's in these chapters? What's in these verses? What's in these stanzas? Whatever, right? Can get us thinking about ourselves, thinking about our lives, thinking about how we approach our lives, thinking about how we do those things. And yes, this show definitely looks at the Tao Te Ching. So we start there. We start at the Tao. And if you've never heard of the Tao before, that doesn't, again, 34 words. You'll be up to speed in no time. It's about hearing it and opening yourself up to what it's saying. And not one of the things that I think a lot of people do when they approach ancient texts, especially the ancient texts of the Tao, is read it and then say, oh yeah, I get it. It's like, okay, you get it. Getting it is intellect. Being able to incorporate it into your life, being able to absorb it, ingest it, digest it, and allow it to stir within you as an ancient text. Remember, this was written 3,000 years ago. The idea that, oh, I get it. Well, yes, I will concede that you get it. However, if everybody over the last 3,000 years has said, oh yeah, I get it, well then why are we where we are? It isn't just about getting it. It's about getting it and living it and incorporating it.
and allowing yourself to surrender to what it is. And I'm going to go ahead and pick a random number. And it was 53. Tao is easy. Once again, I get it. Tao is easy. It's easy. And this is a beautiful verse, especially this idea of, when you read this thing and you say, oh, I get it. Because it starts with, there is nothing simpler than to walk the way of the Tao. You just walk in the way of Tao. Be inspired every moment. Allow yourself to be living this life in observation, just observing what Tao is presenting you. Just not wanting for anything, because everything that you could ever want is within everything that you are receiving. And so you don't focus on wanting. You don't focus on obtaining. You just live here and you receive what is in this moment. The only thing you'd fear if you're living that way is getting sidetracked. And yet many people think there's an easier way. This is the sort of U-turn. Everything's going well, right? There's nothing simpler than to walk the way of Tao. The only thing you'd fear is getting sidetracked. This is your experience of your life is open and free, and you don't have a care in the world. Just like everything is provided for you, you're being supported, and every challenge is helping you grow so that you can experience the next thing you're here to experience. And then there's this line, and yet many people think there's an easier way. There's nothing simpler than to walk the way of Tao, and yet many people think they can cut corners. And this is when I talk about the idea of studying for the test, where it's like, I want to ask the teacher all of the questions that are going to be on the test so that there is no doubt I'm going to do good on the test. Now, that has become so ubiquitous in our society, the idea of studying for the test, that we have this shallowness in the world of, well, in order to be strong, I need whatever. In order to be strong, in order to be seen as strong, I need to have big muscles. So let's cut the BS of getting fit and just do weightlifting until it fails, and do really strong or really heavy weights so that I can, I want to look healthy and so I can, or I want to lose weight. And so I can, not that this is a bad thing, but it does come into, we get bariatric surgery, or we get, we take drugs or whatever to cut the corner of really healing ourselves, right? Healing ourselves means healing our emotions, healing our mind, healing our trauma, and in letting go of that, we can become healthier physically. It's my belief that that's true. Nobody else has to believe that. Now, and there's nothing wrong with getting bariatric surgery and other things like that, because, but I did read a study, 10, 15 years ago, that people were getting bariatric surgery were becoming alcoholics because they didn't associate their weight problem or their eating problem, if there was an eating problem, not everybody has that, but as an addiction. And so what we did in order to study for the test, we just want to succeed at the goal rather than exceeding at the journey to getting the goal. We just cut the corner. There's nothing simpler than to walk the way of Tao. There's nothing simpler than to actually do the work. And the reason that there's nothing simpler than to do the work is because it's not going to come back and bite you in the ass in the end. Because you're going through and you're taking care of yourself from the deep foundation of your life. You take care of yourself there. And then the external stuff, the relationships that you have, your relationship with yourself, your ability to love yourself, all of those things, and your ability to love yourself and care for yourself in a way that says, I don't like that I do that. Why am I doing it? Or I don't like that I do that. I'm going to do it until I don't. And then as you observe yourself, you start to observe and become aware of why you're doing things that you don't like that you do. And when you do that, when you start to care for yourself, when you really care for yourself, you can realize that you're living an inspired life. And so there is nothing simpler than to walk the way they are. Are there shortcuts to getting the results you want? Yes, but why do you want those results? Why do you want to, let's say, lose weight if you're still living, with the same mind of when you were overweight? And then you're going outside of yourself, looking for goals and looking for all of the things to look good, while deep inside everything is ugly. And so there's nothing simpler than to walk the way of Tao. The only thing you'd fear is getting sidetracked, and yet many people think there's an easier way. I want my life to be calm. The getting sidetracked is, in order for my life to be safe or calm or whatever, I have to have money in the bank, right? A lot of people believe that's true. A lot of people believe that's the only way to make it happen. Well, that's the easier way. Right? The way that you can be prepared for the future is to hoard everything now. That's not Tao. And what you're doing is you're afraid of the future, not afraid of getting sidetracked from living Tao. You're afraid of things happening. I'm just reading a note really quick. Oh, Shelley, I'm so glad. It's a process, because we live under the influence. We live under the influence of so many things, right? We live under the influence of our parents. And if our parents judged us, we live under the influence of that judgment. We live under the influence of their fear. If they tell us we can't have something because of money, if we can't have something because we're fat, because we can't do something because we're ugly, we can't do something, whatever it is they instilled on us, right? Whatever trauma we experienced through our parents, and maybe our parents were great, but we still have trauma. Trauma's trauma. So no matter what your experience is, you have experienced trauma. If you have a very privileged experience, and so not getting what you want could be as traumatic to you as being beaten as a child for someone else, because they didn't live in the experience that you have. And so it's all about, this is not law of attraction, but relativity, right? This is general relativity. Your life is on a measuring stick that is as long as someone else's measuring stick, but you can't compare the measuring sticks because they're measuring different lives. So if you can walk the way of Tao and actually talk to someone else walking the way of Tao, and there's no judgment, there's no anything, because you don't compare each other. You live your life, they live their life, and you come together and are a mirror for each other. And yet, many people think there's an easier way. It's like they look outside of themselves, they say, you have something I want, right? And because you have something I want to get it. How do I get it without doing anything? How do I get it without having to study? How do I get it without having to act? How can I get all of the joy of being awesome without actually having to be awesome? Right? Oh, I can get a job and I can get a job with an awesome company, and that company makes me awesome because I'm connected to it. And it's like, yeah, but I don't have the skills to do it. Oh, well, then maybe I can connect with somebody that works at that job, and I can get a way in. And that's what we've been doing for years and years and years and years. We've been honing this idea of just like, well, how do I get around the hard work of living so that I can just get what I want? This is what a lot of people are doing. This is them feeling like there's an easier way. It's like, oh, we need money. How do we do money? And we go out and we become influencers, and we just do the easiest thing. And I'm not saying being an influencer is an easy thing. It's not an easy thing. I would never want to do it. But we go out in the world and we try and cut these corners and try and say, oh, well, society respects people that look this way, so I'm going to make myself look that way. Society respects people who have these degrees, so I'm going to go get those degrees. But don't assume that getting that degree means you learned anything in school, because maybe I got someone to buy me the degree, right? In some way. And it's like, oh, we'll donate a wing to your school, and then they can give your kid the degree that he wants or she wants. It's like that happens everywhere. So why do we, this is what I talk about when I talk about over-esteeming people. You never know. People have fame, and they're like, oh, once someone has fame, everybody else tries to clamor to get that fame kind of, get some of that sparkle on there. Somebody get some of that glitter in their craft, like you go out of your way to oh, I'm going to have a podcast, and I'm going to do a podcast, and I'm going to have all these famous people come on just so I can get more attention, but then that gives this other person, this person that's already overesteemed attention, and then it cycles. And this is what this next section that I haven't read yet today says. They pacify themselves with possessions and entertainment. You pacify yourself because you're uncomfortable, right? Pacifying can start with drugs, alcohol. You can pacify yourself. Just like, oh, it's too much for today. Poof, get a little something. It can be food. That's probably one of the first pacifiers we use in our lives. And if we, and it's sugar. So there's food. That's one thing. Then there's sugar. But then there's also, all sorts of things, and the idea of instant gratification versus delayed reaction or delayed gratification. A lot of people just like, I just want it now. Just give it to me now. And they pacify themselves with possessions and entertainment. So they go out, and they pacify themselves, and in pacifying, and I believe Shelley said it just gets harder after that, and that's true, right? The idea that like you've pacified yourself, so you are now less accustomed to going through the thing that you need to go through, the thing that you're being called to go through, right? You are, it's kind of like if you go out in the cold and you're like, okay, it's cold, and you put on your jackets and you put on your snow pants and you go and you walk and you do a thing. But then the next day you get up and you're like, oh, I don't want to do that, because it takes you energy to be like, oh, I have to brave the cold. Now, if you got used to the cold in November, you wouldn't have a problem in January. But if you didn't get used to the cold and you stayed inside and you just didn't go out because someone else could go out for you. Well, by the time January comes, you're like, oh my God, no, I'm not going out. It's so, so cold. But then as it starts to get a little warmer, you're still cold because you never got used to putting your body in a state of discomfort. And so that discomfort is overwhelming for you. And you don't realize how discomfort is a regulator in life. It's okay to be discomfort. It's okay to experience discomfort. It's okay to, this is why we exercise. You exercise and it hurts or it's painful or whatever. But you have to go, you have to put yourself in that state of slight discomfort so that you can grow more resilient, or you can grow more tempered, right? The idea that, by experience some discomfort, I now have a wider range of experience, right? I experience the opposite of comfort. And so I can appreciate comfort just that much more. So they pacify themselves with possessions and entertainment, distracting themselves enough never to see their bankrupt lives. That's the problem with avoiding discomfort. Because you distract yourself enough, you keep yourself comfortable enough never to see that that's not comfortable. You're like, oh, it's so comfortable to lay in bed under my blankets. And it's like you lay there until you get bed sores. And you don't realize how painful it is to just lay there. Going out, experiencing things, experiencing the cold. Like I know in the fall, like getting that shiver, but breathing in that cold air, that cold, like air, like breeze coming in, and it's like it's getting down into the low 40s or 30s. It's like, oh, like take a deep breath and have a warm beverage. Like, oh, there's nothing like it, because it's like it's been warm and now it's starting to change. And yes, it's going to get a lot colder than that, but it's so beautiful to be able to experience those changes. Hello, how you doing?
I'm doing great, actually.
Good. And what am I looking at in your profile?
That is a
cow.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I don't think technically it's not a cow. It's something. I got in trouble because I described him as a big horny dude, and everybody was like, "Why would you call him that?" And I was like, "Because he had these huge horns."
We don't see the horns, but we do see his tongue. So when you respond to a big horny dude, you like there are things. Horny means something.
In the picture I showed my friends, you could see the horns. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, they were like, "Why would?" And I was like, "Well, I guess I didn't check that it was a dude, but I don't know."
It could be a horny, like, I don't know, lady cow.
I didn't say that either, but
Either way.
but that's my youngest son, and they were both. Well, when he was a baby, that baby is now a very grown man-looking 14-year-old.
Oh, wow.
But that is one of my favorite pictures. He is sticking his tongue out at the big horny dude.
And the horny dude's sticking his tongue out right back.
Should probably be concerned, but...
Go on.
Well, I had to jump on because honestly,
Nope.
like you were like you can't lay in bed forever because then you get bed sores, and I was like in my head, I was like, that's why you rotate. Like,
Yeah.
but then you said the thing about that when the air starts to turn, there is nothing better than that first night where you have a reason to break out the comforter. Like it's not sheet season
Hmm.
anymore. It's not light blanket season.
Hmm.
That first night where you need that comforter, you will never get a better night's sleep than
Yeah.
so.
It's like there's something like I like cold. I like sleeping. Not sleeping cold. I mean, I have blankets and stuff and they're warm and what have you. But I do like, like when at night I set my temperature to 60. So I enjoy I mean,
Yeah,
not in the summer, but in the winter. But it's nice to just kind of have that cold evening. I sleep better in the cold, of course. But
hibernation. That's what I call it. We need to set everything to hibernation. I
yeah.
need my little cocoon. Like,
Yeah, it's like, and there's something really nice about like breathing in cold air but being warm. Like
right.
being under the blankets and like I'm a blanket. Like I love a good blanket. Like,
When somebody else, I'm team. We both need our own blanket. Get away from mine. Like,
yeah. I did order a big wool California King. I'll never have a king bed, but I ordered a big California King blanket because I just like big blankets and I like to share a blanket and but it's enormous. I
yeah,
usually do, for my winter I fold it in half and I use it as it's a handmade wool blanket, like whatever. It's warm as all get out. I mean, it's scratchy and stuff, because it's wool, but I like it.
yeah. Yeah. I'm definitely team. I like to keep it is on when I decide to close my windows, let alone like we still had our heat off.
Oh yeah, no heat off. I still like having a window open when sometimes when it's when that first blanket night because there's it's in the air, man. It's like oh yeah, like being under those blankets with that cool air coming in and you can just smell just autumn just peeking in. It's
Or
so
smelling.
beautiful. Oh, the sweet smell of snow. Oh man, it's gonna come. It's like, oh, there it is. There's something
And
beautiful about it.
I don't know how many people have been able to experience this, but this is what I love about living where I live is that Columbus is a huge city, but you have parts of it that's still very country and it's very easy and very quick to get to like rural, I can't say that word,
I
rural.
noticed.
That's never going to happen. Farm country.
Hmm.
um, but you can hear the snow hit the ground, and that is an amazing sound.
Yeah.
And it is
No.
loud. It is loud.
Yeah. I like when even though I live in Chicago and there is no farmland anywhere near Chicago. At 4 a.m. when I'd go out to shovel or whatever because I get up early. And if it's snowing, you can hear it. You can hear it, and it's beautiful. It's so still, but like it's almost like like almost like static. It's just like everywhere. It's amazing.
But yeah, so I had to say that I wanted to be a little smart assy at first, but then I was like, no, I need like the tip of my nose needs to be an ice cube, and the rest of me needs to be like wrapped up, and I'm
Yeah.
happy.
Life is it's beautiful. No need to be a
But
smartass.
no, but that's just me.
I know. Still no
I
need, but
but that's the charm of me. That's what I tell myself. But I wanted to tell you, like, I had my own little kind of epiphany thing, and I think it goes along to what you were talking about. But I've been struggling with my sponsor and this, that, and the other, and
Yeah.
she called me on Tuesday. We had words.
Okay.
And essentially it came down to she was just sounding like she didn't want to be my sponsor anymore. And I was like, this is a two-way street. If you don't want to be here, you don't have to stay for me. Like, I'll be okay too. Like, and she was like, it doesn't work that way. And I was like, okay, like, can I have you forever? Like, I'm confused. And then something, like, whatever it came down to, I was like, this isn't working for me. I don't see this working. I was like, I think that this relationship, as far as sponsorship, needs to end. And she got a little snarky later on. We had a member of our group pass, and I had said something. It doesn't matter. The long story short is it really hurt, and I really wanted to pop off at the mouth. And I was thinking, I was running through all these scenarios of like, well, maybe she did it because of this, and maybe she did it because of that, or maybe she did it. And then it just hit me, and I was like, I will never know. I'll never know why she did it. I'll never know her motives. And even if I did know her motives, I can't make her, like, even if it was like the most malicious, like petty, I can't make her do better or change her. Like,
absolutely. Congratulations on your graduation, my dear.
Why am I spending all this energy trying to figure out where she's coming from? Like, the core of it is, I don't think it was malicious. If it was, okay.
Right.
Like, that's her prerogative. That's fine. But like, let me look at me and see what I have to work, what I learned about myself that I can control in this situation.
Absolutely.
And that is, and then because God is funny, and I say that as somebody who is not a believer in God, but just life has the best sense of humor. She calls me back and tries to be like, let's work this out. And I had to break up with her again. It made me laugh. Like, okay, I got it the first time for once. Like, leave me alone.
Yeah. And, not everybody, like, because you like, it's kind of like when you're in a relationship with someone and you want to break up, but you don't have the chutzpah to do it. And then they break up with you and you're like, wait a minute. I'm like, no. Like, and you want to keep the relationship simply because it's not on your terms. And who knows if that's what she was experiencing, or whatever. But you're right. You can't ever know what someone else is doing and why they're doing it and what their motives are. And if we can all realize that you're doing what's best for you, and I appreciate that you're doing what's best for you, no matter what that is. And I am going to be here doing what's best for me. And I'm going to be, even if I'm not being honest, right? I'm not being honest with myself or you. That is what's best for me at this moment, because that's what I'm doing. If I am under the influence of someone, being under the influence of that is what's best for me at this moment. Hopefully, we'll be able to get to a place where I trust myself more than that. And then I can move out of that. And her calling you and asking you again, it's her doing that and you're standing up for yourself. This is you're having an experience that has nothing to do with her. Like, you're having an experience of being like having to make the choice twice. Having to decide what's best for you in two different ways. And maybe you see that in other relationships too. Maybe you see that in your marriage. Maybe you see that with, like the way you communicate with your kids or the way we communicate with people outside. Maybe this is a cycle for you that you have to experience. And for her, maybe she's grasping. Who knows? But you'll never know what's going on with her and what she needs to learn and what she is experiencing. And that's a beautiful thing to understand.
Yeah, it clicked, and then I was just like, oh my God. It's like, I'm like, oh, no wonder everything was so hard and so heavy. And I'm not saying that this
Of
fixes
course.
everything and will
No.
forever and ever. But I'm like, oh, I was busy carrying other people's shit. And like, I
Right.
didn't notice because they saw me with all my bags and they're like, one more won't hurt. Here, hold this. And I
Right.
did, and I don't have to. And
And that's the thing. You did have to in order to see that you don't have to. And that's the paradox of it all. It's like it wasn't bad that you held on to their stuff. And when you realize that this isn't your responsibility, you grow, you mature. The fact that you thought it was your responsibility to hold on to their stuff comes from past trauma, comes from all the stuff that you will eventually let go of. And we talk about like pre-karmic buffet. This is you finally finishing one of those little dishes, right? Like one of those like things of like, oh, like this is a bitter vegetable that I'm eating. And it's like, oh, well, I got to find the deliciousness of it. The deliciousness is in learning that you don't have to. You don't have to hold their shit. Why don't you pick a number? Oh, God, it's so hard. I can do it. I can randomize it.
Here's why it's hard. I finally found it to explain it. And it was like, it was a video, and you're going to make fun of me, and that's fine, because I'm going to make fun of me too.
When do I make fun of you? Have I ever?
Everybody's always talking behind my back, of course, because everything's about me. No, but it just explained, people were like, when people ask you your favorite movie, like, they don't actually need to know your, like, favorite movie. Like, this is not a test. Like,
no, it's not a test. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. It's all stupid. Just tell me a movie so that I can continue talking.
Exactly. You're like, but me, I'm like, I've got to pick the perfect number. Let's go with 27. There we go.
27. Look at you going. The mystery of the process. Oh, I think that's what we were just talking about. It's never wrong. You are never wrong. This is what it, and you're going to drop in 23 seconds or so. So if you want to come back and you can, please do. What this says, the mystery of the process. Although a good traveler may have plans, they are not rigid, nor is the outcome. Although a good artist creates, the creations are arrived at through intuition. Although a good scientist observes, it is done for the first time, every time. By embodying these strategies, the master accepts everyone and makes use of every situation. Nothing is wasted, and every moment is imbued with light. What is the good if not a vision for the bad? What is the bad if not a lesson for the good? Accept this completely, or you will suffer in all that you do. It is the great secret. When we were talking about the idea that you didn't have to hold stuff for other people, but you had to hold stuff for other people so that you can learn that you didn't have to hold stuff for other people. That's what this means when it's like, what is the good if not a vision for the bad? What is the bad if not a lesson for the good? The bad being, oh, you're holding something for someone else, and that doesn't make you feel good. That kind of suppresses you. That does all of these things. But that's a lesson for you to grow out of it. When you don't hold something for someone else, and you realize that they become inspired, and you become inspired, and that's all good. And then you revert to holding stuff for people. And you're like, wait, why am I doing this? What is the good if not a vision for the bad? The idea that, why am I doing this? Why am I holding this? Why am I holding all of this baggage for someone else? That's the vision. The vision is, I don't have to. What is the bad if not a lesson for the good? When you do the bad thing, when you do the thing like of holding that stuff, well, it's a lesson for the good. The good can be like, look, we don't have to do that. And then it says, accept this completely or you will suffer in all that you do. It isn't that you've done something good by recognizing that you don't have to hold all this baggage for other people. You didn't do anything good. You just simply learned. And you learned something about yourself. You didn't learn something intrinsic in nature. You learned something about yourself. And that's it. You didn't learn something about everybody else. No, because there are other people who are going to have to learn that sometimes it's a good idea to hold things for other people. Sometimes, because there are people out there that don't hold nothing for nobody. It brings to mind a friend of mine who didn't have use of his legs, and he used crutches, and he would just balance on top of, on his legs under him. And someone didn't even hold the door open for him when they were going into a building. Turned out my friend who didn't have use of his legs was interviewing that kid. So he didn't get the job. Because if you're not going to hold anything for anybody, and that's the thing. You didn't learn anything for everybody. You learned something for yourself. That's what this really talks about. Welcome back.
Thank you. And I think that is my next bridge to cross, I guess we'll say.
What's that?
Well, I will fully admit, what I wanted to do is exactly kind of what you said, which was I then wanted to run to Rachel and be like, I learned this and you should do this,
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't even from like any sort of vindictive place or anything.
No,
like that.
you're proud that you get it.
I mean, it's not even that I'm proud, but I'm just like, oh my God, it already feels like a weight has been lifted. And I don't, like, are you under this weight too? Because this is how but,
yeah,
like, I couldn't, then I was like, like, I get too big for my britches. And I know I do that.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. I think that's the other thing, and that's a cornerstone of, one of the reasons why we broke up. And now that I have to, I know I explained myself and I don't have to, but, it was because I was saying, I hear you, I understand your concerns, but you are not understanding that this is something that I would not have done before, that I'm doing because I'm putting myself first. And this is what I'm listening to, what I think I need.
And in the rooms, they have, there are things that they can, there are lines and there are things to say to make that seem dangerous. Just like, in religious surroundings, there are things that you can say to make someone who's making their own choices seem like they're putting themselves in danger. And you have to, one, receive those if they do come out and say, "Oh, this is self-will run riot" and all of that kind of stuff. You have to take that into consideration, because maybe you are crazy. Maybe you are going off the deep end, and you have to at least entertain the idea that you're not thinking clearly. And if you can entertain the idea that maybe you're not thinking clearly, you can look and you can observe from the standpoint of, no, I think I am, or actually, there's a lot of things going on right now. Maybe I should question this. But like you said, it felt good by not carrying all that. So that's good for you. But there's always this idea of awareness. You have to make sure that you're being aware of the direction you're going, because maybe, like, I question myself all the time. I question the idea that am I crazy because I'm going so far afield of everybody else that I surround myself with, right? That I have to make sure that I'm not so involved in my ego. This can't be, because if I'm just moving forward because of ego, right? That idea that you did something, you felt good about it, now you want to tell someone else about it, and you're going to, like, you could take that, you could take this as a foundation and build an entire cult around that idea. And if you were to do that, no one were to push against you, or you were to turn away everybody that pushed against you, you would never actually, you wouldn't heal. You would just be solidifying yourself in a trauma body, And so it's so important to ask ourselves, wait, am I crazy? Because, and really take into consideration that you might be. I do it, like, literally I do it all the time, because I can find myself so far afield of everybody else, when I'm thinking about, like, wait, money is stupid. Like, I'm the important thing. And it's like, wait, that is so off base from everybody else around me. Am I crazy?
I think this is where it comes into play, and where I want to go probably too intellectual and talk about, like, societal norms and, like, my background in cultural anthropology and studying different cultures. And, well, depending on the culture we're in, some places, yeah, money is stupid and they don't, whatever. I get your drift, though. I also, I think that was the other thing that also really triggered me, is that I am somebody that needs time to think things through. And I think maybe I might need a little bit longer than even what's quote unquote normal, because
there's no normal, but go on.
Yeah, I know, but my knee-jerk reaction is always emotional. It's always emotional. So initially, if I am hurt, that turns to anger, and then I just want to lash out, and that's not good. Right. So I need to take a minute, calm my emotions down, and then I need to look at it, and I need to get advice from people, because you're right. And I think that was the other kind of sticking factor, is that the last time we had talked about this, I told her, like, well, I would like to talk to my therapist who I trust, and, some other people that I trust, and people in the program, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'll think about it. I was like, that is the answer I can give you right now, is that I'm taking it under serious consideration. And, it was right back to pushing me of, like, well, when are you going to know? And it's like, well, I'm going to know when I figure it out, I guess.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So, I definitely agree. And anymore, I'm definitely leaning into this whole, like, I would not feel this good about my situation in my life right now if I hadn't just gone through that, because that sucked. And now it's good that it feels good that it's resolved. Now, if tomorrow I win a trip to a dream vacation,
that's literally out of left field. What if tomorrow I win a trip on a dream vacation? I think you're. Do you have like manifesting like?
You can come with me.
I'll take a dream vacation.
Yeah. Well, who knows? Maybe my dream vacation is an igloo and, like, whatever.
I don't care. Igloos are beautiful. Like, I'll live in an igloo.
You did say, I forgot. You said you like to sleep in the cold. So, but I just mean, like, it depends on what you measure it against. And if you don't have something less than, then your worst best day is still better than your best worst day. I
don't know. But the idea of measuring, right? So what we have on number 27, right, in the first verse, right? Although a good traveler may have plans, a measurement, they are not rigid, nor is the outcome. So a good traveler may have a way to measure their trip. However, The measurements aren't rigid, nor is what they expect to be to have measured when they return. So although they may have a way to measure it, they don't really care. And they will measure along the way, but they're not going to measure for sake of saying this was a good trip. It's going to be a great trip, even if I'm in an igloo. But some people might measure that and say, well, don't you want to be on a beach? Well, I am on a beach. It's just frozen. Although a good artist creates, right? There's a creation. The creation is arrived at through intuition, meaning that I'm going to arrive at the creation rather than having only a measurement in mind when I set out to do it. Although a good scientist observes, it is done for the first time every time, meaning that every time I observe, I am creating something to measure it by. Whereas if I observed something 3 days ago, and I bring the measuring tape to today of that, then I am measuring this against something that happened before rather than measuring this for what it is today. So you today are a different person, and to use the measuring sticks that you have piled up from every day previous, you're a different person. You have different relationships. Now, yes, just like although a good traveler may have plans, you may have ways of measuring. Just don't be so rigid about how you're measuring. Don't be so rigid about how the outcome is supposed to look in your mind. Go ahead.
That whole thing reminds me a lot of.
I'm sorry. You go on. Tell me that again.
It reminds me of when I was pregnant with my youngest, and I made a birth plan because my oldest birth went just everything. It just went left field. I wrote my birth plan with, this is what I would like to happen, but the obvious outcome I want is a healthy mom and a healthy baby. So, any of these that cannot happen for health reasons, then, and I think, that was the right way to do it. And yeah, I think that's what I need to try to apply to my life more often, is just like, well, this is what I would like to happen.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if we get there.
Although a good traveler may have plans. You don't always have to have plans. But if you do have plans, they don't have to be rigid. That's the thing. Like, when I was writing this translation, I'm going to open up Stephen Mitchell's 27 really quick, because it's a little different. Where is it? There it is. A good traveler has no fixed plans. And the word fixed is doing a lot of lifting in his first line. A good traveler has no fixed plans and is not intent upon arriving. Right? So it's like arriving isn't the point. And my plans are here maybe, but they're not fixed. A good artist lets his intuition lead him wherever it wants. A good scientist has freed himself of concepts and keeps his mind open to what is. Thus, the master is available to all people and doesn't reject anyone. He is ready to use all situations and doesn't waste anything. This is called embodying the light. What is a good man but a bad man's teacher? What is a bad man but a good man's job? If you don't understand this, you will get lost. However intelligent you are, it is the great secret. So that's Stephen Mitchell's translation of the Tao, and of 27. And And again, like you're saying, it's like it's really about these expectations that we carry. It's like trying to be present as we are right now without starting from a point of, I believed this yesterday. Because if I believed this yesterday, who am I today? Maybe I believe the same thing, but can I at least consider that maybe I don't?
Interesting points.
Interesting points. All right. Are you headed to bed now?
Actually, I'm in new power today. I'm not yet tired.
Okay.
I did get a good amount of sleep yesterday, I think, because I thought everything was resolved until I got the phone call this morning or yesterday
I
morning.
was going to say. Any crafts on the crafts on the craft table?
Which I have about 15 going right now.
Oh, okay.
I'm whittling. I started to whittle, and I'm gonna get a pet spider. So I used a power tool yesterday, and I hurt myself a little bit, but not as much as
you and sharp objects, like, and your crafting. It's really. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming up. 27 is a beautiful. It's one that I. Early on in my relationship with Tao, I kind of glommed onto and was like, "Hey, this is something," you know. And I'm really glad that I wrote the Tao, because I think 27, although I really loved it, there was always something a little lacking in the Stephen Mitchell version for me. Because I talk, my translation of the Tao really kind of addresses like your experience of Tao rather than talking about the mystery of Tao around us all the time. It is talking about your experience of it and how that translates and how we can have a relationship with the experience of Tao in our lives. It is beautiful to be able to do that. Thank you guys so much for joining me. This is Martin John, and this is Tao of the Day. If you're interested in picking up a copy of my Tao, if you're interested in talking with me any further about Tao or about other things, you're always open to do that. JK is coming in. We're going to chat, pick a number with JK. Hey, JK, what's going on?
Not much. I woke up late again.
No, yeah, you sound subdued.
Well, not really. I think that's just my voice.
Okay.
Right now.
Okay.
That's my voice.
That is your voice.
Subdued is not bad.
No, I'm not at all. No. Anywho, what's going on? You sleep well?
Slept all right. I was up in the middle of the night a little bit, but it's all right.
Yeah. Where are you? Are you home, or are you
home
traveling?
I'm home.
Okay.
Got back late night yesterday, like midnight. I was home. No, the day before. I don't even know what damn day it is.
Yeah.
I lose track.
Now you're a business analyst, right?
Yes.
And when you travel, what do you travel? Are you traveling to different locations of your company, or what are you traveling to accomplish?
No, all this travel has been just for my daughter.
Well, when you travel to New York and stuff, but like I know you travel to other places too. I know you're going to be in Chicago.
Well, that's not. It's not just that's.
That's not
That's
work
other
related.
business. That's not work. Nope.
Oh, okay.
It sort of is, but it's not primarily.
Okay.
I am meeting somebody two people I'm meeting. I have worked with them in my current job.
Okay.
But,
okay.
like one of them just got married.
I always thought that all of your traveling was just like, because I'm like, wait, what the heck is a business analyst doing, like traveling somewhere? You don't have to travel to do your work. Like,
No, all of our
anymore. There was,
locations.
what's that?
Yeah, all of our locations are in the same state. So
Okay,
if I
okay.
travel, it's only within the state that I travel.
Yeah.
So a couple of times I did travel. I have traveled to Chicago for business, but
Hmm.
it was a conference or something. So that's
Oh,
it.
yeah, okay. Yeah, we have conferences
Mhm.
here. We love the conferences.
Yeah, it was a big conference, and it was fun. We had a good time. I looked out the window a lot. Oh my God,
Yeah,
Jerry.
where did you stay when you were here?
Um, a Swiss hotel, I think.
Oh, okay.
If
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
where we
So
were.
that's downtown. So that I did you have a view of the lake or no?
I did. I
Yeah,
did.
see that's one of the things that, like Chicago really is. It's like, I mean, I know New York you can like, but it's really rare to have a view of any sort of flat water from New York. I mean, there's only a handful of places that you can actually see that from, especially like in hotels and stuff. But
Yeah. No, the guy at the front desk was very kind to me, and I said, "Can I have like a high floor up?" Um, and I said, I'd love to like. I've never been here before, and he goes, "I got you. Don't worry." And
oh
he
yeah,
he put me like on one of the higher floors, and I had a beautiful view. And I looked back at my pictures of Chicago because we were inside for 3 days. Um, and all of them are the same versions of the picture. That I have one picture basically of Chicago, and it's from the view of my hotel room, just
yeah,
at different parts of the day. And I was
right.
like, oh, I didn't do anything here at all.
Well,
I did not know anything about the city, or we went out one night for dinner or something, but I got picked to like go home in the cab while everybody else walked. I don't know. I got picked to go home in the cab with one of like the executives that we work with. He's like, "You're gonna
mm,
come with me," and I was like, "Oh, I want to walk the
no,
city," but I
yeah.
just said, "Whatever, fine, I'll go with you."
Yeah, there's a,
But that
there's a,
was that.
there's a lot. There's a lot here, and there's yeah, it's a good town. Well, when you visit, we'll walk.
Sounds good to me. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we'll see. I'm excited to just go and see something new. I was
Yeah.
hoping that my daughter would go with me, but that doesn't look like it's gonna happen. So,
Yeah.
oh
That
well.
means that means you can walk.
That means I can walk a whole lot. I'll be
you
walking.
know.
Well, she was going to be walking at that time.
Oh,
In
okay.
theory. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean she would have been out and walking, hopefully. We'll see.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see.
So I have
Um,
no number.
you have no number.
Um, I have no number.
I can pick
I
a random one, and we'll see where it takes us. Funny. It brought me to 27.
So we got to do this again, huh?
So, like it's an interesting one. Yeah, it's just like looking at it from a different perspective now. Although a good traveler may have plans, they are not rigid, nor is the outcome.
So this is the one I picked when I was on the plane. This last trip, I was on the plane,
Yeah.
and I I picked 27, and I said to myself, and I was like, "This is going to be an interesting trip of this go around,"
Now,
and it threw us.
what happened on the last trip?
So it starts off. I get to the airport. I'm waiting. I get on the plane, and I pick that number. I put my little Jao book back in my bag, and I just sat there. And I don't think we're up less than 20 minutes. And they come on, and they're like, "We're gonna hit some bad turbulence. I don't know if we're gonna have to, you know, there's nowhere we can go. We might have to stop, or I don't know." He said something that I couldn't really hear very well over the thing because
Hmm.
people had already started freaking out. And
Yeah.
like it was such bad turbulence. There was crap in the aisles. Like there was stuff
Mm.
everywhere. And this woman, I sat next to two women. They had this little baby. And I looked at the little baby, and now I told you I was afraid to fly for many years.
Yeah.
And I just said, I was like, yeah, this is my experience. And I I sent a little love to like the people I love and said, well, if this is going to be it, this is it. I didn't think it was going to, but
Of course.
I was very calm in the moment comparatively. Actually, I just sat there. I mean, what are you going to do? You have no
Right.
control. But I looked over at one point at that little baby sound asleep. And I was like,
Yeah.
that's a good idea. I'm just going to close my eyes. And I sure did. And like, it's bad when the flight attendants are freaking out. Like you could, like the woman, she was like, kept going on the loudspeaker saying, we can't come and pick up the stuff that fell in the aisles. You just have to wait. Like, I was like, oh shit. But it was fine. We landed.
Good.
Yeah. And then I had to use my middle finger a couple of times. I think you were right about some of that.
Your middle finger? You had to use your middle finger?
I had to use my middle finger, yeah. I think I lost my bitch face or something, because like even the minute I got out of the airport, like, the taxi drivers, they try to get you to, and usually people don't approach me.
Mm-hmm.
But this guy, he approaches me and asked me would I like a taxi? I said, no, thank you. And then stands in front of me. Well, I had to assert myself.
Yeah.
And because, I'm not getting in your cab, dude. Like, no.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I wasn't very nice, but that's okay.
It's all
I
right.
had to use my middle finger.
Yeah.
He got out of my way.
Yeah, I bet he did.
Yeah.
In more ways than one.
He shifted his stance very quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I had that, and then I had some boundary things I had to work through, and it was okay. It all worked out. So yes, 27.
27. Although a good traveler
27
may have
alerted
plans.
me.
Yeah.
That's right. Told me what was going to happen.
Yeah. They're not rigid. And that's the thing. Like, not being rigid means you don't have to necessarily be nice. Not being rigid means doing what needs to be done in this moment. You don't necessarily have to be nice. You don't have to be, if someone's going to try and assert themselves in front of you, you assert yourself right back if that's what's necessary.
I gotta do what I gotta do. But yeah, I mean, but that is all being me as well.
Absolutely,
And I think the trick part for me is how do I shift back? Like, how do I find, it's like what you said, and this stayed with me since you said it, about the center shifting, and the middle line shifting. What is that center? Where's that balance being held? It shifts as you travel down the path. I always envision it, and that's why it was so profound to me. Even it was simple, but it didn't occur to me about that. The line is always straight. It's a It's a tightrope for me in my head.
Right.
And so when you said that, it was, oh, and then understanding, one of the things holding on to a lot of stuff all the time. How do you shift back? So when you assert yourself, or you do have to set boundaries, can I come back from that side of the fence? Or am I staying in there and looking at that? And I looked at that, and I don't feel bad about any of the ways that I asserted myself on that trip, because I did have to set boundaries with folks, and that's okay. But I didn't stay in that anger. It wasn't anger, actually. It was just assertiveness. And I didn't stay in that space where I shifted back, and I went back to wherever that new middle is.
Right.
And I let it go. And that was cool.
And in 27, it says, by embodying these strategies, the master accepts everyone. You accept the person that wants to bring you in his cab. You accept him, and you adjust so that you make use of every situation. Nothing is wasted, and every moment is imbued with light, even if that light is emanating from your middle finger.
That's right. Yep, that's the way it works. And like like with my kid too, I had to, there was some boundary setting that we had to go through, but it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't out of anger. It was just, hey, look.
It wasn't malicious. You're just doing what you need to do. And you allow them to do what they do.
That's exact. But they weren't allowing me to do what I do.
They,
That wasn't okay. And
they don't have the ability to stop you from doing what you do.
no, and that was the boundary I set. I said,
Right.
just because you say it doesn't mean I'm going to do it.
Right.
Like
Absolutely.
I think you're mistaking this situation here. Like I don't need to stay in your room. I don't need to be like I'm the one that has the credit card. Like you really don't. So,
Right.
if I really need to stay, and it's just those kinds of things. Like those rules. I don't have to follow your rules. Like I am flexible for you, but it doesn't mean that you can take on a position to dominate me.
Right.
And that was kind of the difference. And it was fun. Like
Yeah.
we said my piece and then I was done with it and went about our business. But so now it's just waiting, but it is funny. And I was going to say I was listening to you earlier. I didn't get out of bed. I stayed in bed. But I listened for a little while, and
Mm-hmm.
you were talking about the weather, and that was something for me where I live. It gets real hot, and I will say that that heat was always so intense for me.
Yeah.
And now, because I walk, I walk every day. It doesn't matter. It's raining, it's snowing, it's hot, it's cold. I go, and that heat no longer phases me at all, And if I walk and maybe I don't walk every day, if I don't feel well, I'll stay in bed. But if that, when that time comes, because I've built up to July or August, it's not so, I'm not afraid of it anymore because I would be one of those, oh, it's going to be 100 degrees. I'm not going outside.
Right.
But that's not a thing anymore. Same with the cold. Because
Yeah.
I like, if I had a preference, I like the colder. But I don't know that it's true anymore, to be honest, because I really, when it was hot, I didn't mind it. I liked it. And then when it was cold, I liked that too. I was like,
Yeah.
okay. But
Yeah, you've probably heard me say, like, I know a friend of mine one time when they were asked what their favorite season is, they were like, the next one. It's like, oh, what a really,
I like
really,
that.
really beautiful way of looking at the experience. I know one person said, oh, it looks like you're never happy. And it's like, oh God, like what a shit way of looking at that. Like
You
it's
could
just like,
agree.
no, I'm looking forward to experiencing the next thing. When I experience it, I get enough, and then I'm looking forward to the next one.
Mm.
It's like I can be satiated, but I don't have to have more all the time. I want only autumn, I want only spring. And it's like, how unimaginative that must be. JK, thank you so much for joining me. Once again, your random number came up 27. What is the good if not a vision for the bad? What is the bad if not a lesson for the good? Accept this completely, or you will suffer in all that you do. It is the great secret. So beautiful. I really appreciate 27. So, Lo, thank you so much. You picked it, and then so did the random number, so that was the one that we went through. Thank you guys so much for joining me. This is Martin John. This is Tao of the Day. And if you're interested in checking out more of what I do, you can look at the links in my profile. If you're looking to reach out to me, we can set up a conversation. And you can work with me through my website and through a yoga studio here in Chicago if you're local. Thank you so much for joining me. And until next time, which will probably be tomorrow, but no promises. Keep recovering yourself.